Good morning and a warm welcome. Sage here. You're watching 𝐊𝐿𝐴𝐼𝐴 TV live from Sydney. This is the Global Markets Roundup show, and in today's show we'll explore the latest updates from the equity, currency and commodity markets from across the globe. Let us first look at the US markets performance from yesterday's closing. And Wall Street ended the day lower on Wednesday after meeting minutes showed the US Federal Reserve officials split on when to ease back on economic stimulus, while COVID-19 spread weighed on oil for the fifth straight day. The MSCI World Equity Index, which tracks shares in 45 nations, fell 0.58%. Benchmark US indices closed lower on Wednesday, August 18th, amid concerns over the pace of economic recovery and the Delta virus spreads rapidly, causing mayhem. The S&P 500 was down 1.07%, the Dow Jones fell 1.08%, the Nasdaq Composite dropped 0.89%, and the small cap Russell 2000 shed 0.84%. Investors took cues from the Fed's July meeting minutes on Wednesday. The officials noted the current jobs rate may allow rollback of the COVID-era policies by the year's end. The central bank had kept the rates near zero and launched the bond buy program to ensure liquidity in the market. On Wednesday's session, consumer discretionary and communication segments topped the S&P 500. 7 sectors of the index stayed in the red. Real estate and energy stocks were the bottom movers. And now we'll look at the bond market. The 30-year Treasury bond yields were down 1%, while the 10-year bond yields traded flat. US dollar futures index increased by 0.03%. And moving on now to the next news. European stocks held steady on Wednesday as investors favoured utilities and healthcare shares over economically sensitive sectors on rising concerns over a spike in the global COVID-19 cases. The Pan-European Stock 600 index inched up just 0.1%. The London markets traded on a mixed note after investors digested the latest inflation data. According to the Office for National Statistics, the core inflation had shown a year-on-year growth of around 1.9% during July 2021, while it was 2.3% during June 2021. And the FTSE 100 listed house building company Persimmon's shares rose by around 1.01% after the company had reported substantial growth in the interim profits benefited by increased demand and government support measures. Eurozone bond yields dipped on Wednesday but held above lows touched a day earlier as markets lacked direction ahead of the US Federal Reserve meeting minutes due later in the day. On Wednesday, Germany's 10-year yield, the benchmark for the Eurozone, was down by 1 basis point at negative 0.48%, above the lowest in nearly 2 weeks of 0.501% touched on Tuesday. So Italy's 10-year yield was down 2 basis points at 0.5544%. And this is how the US and the European markets performed. It is time for a short break, but after the break we will look at the stock markets in the Asian and the Australian sectors. So please stay tuned to 𝐊𝐿𝐴𝐼𝐴 TV.
Tune in to stay updated while on the move.
We will tell you where the crypto craze has reached,
Where the property market is headed next.
what the world is doing to become more environmentally friendly.
Apart from tracking the daily market charter.
Be on top of the latest news and announcements
With 𝐊𝐿𝐴𝐼𝐴 TV.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Sage here. You're watching 𝐊𝐿𝐴𝐼𝐴 TV live from Sydney. This is the Global Markets Roundup show. Let's now take a look at the Asian share market's performance. Japanese shares bounced back on Wednesday, led by gains in Fujifilm and other defensive stocks, with the Nikkei share average snapping its 4-day losing streak. But concerns about the Delta variant kept investors on guard. The Nikkei rose 0.59%, reversing its earlier losses when it hit its lowest levels since July 30th. And the broader topics rose 0.44%. China's shares rebounded on Wednesday after sharp falls in the previous session, as financial stocks bounced back on Beijing's vow to forestall major financial risks, while defence plays caned amid the rising geopolitical tensions. The blue chip CSI 300 index rose 1.2%, while the Shanghai Composite Index gained 1.1%. South Korean stocks rebounded from a three-month low on Wednesday as institutional investors snapped up shares after an 8-session losing streak. The Kospi closed up 15.84 points or 0.5% after declining 0.59% to hit the lowest levels since May 17th. And now a glance over at the markets closer to home. The ASX 200 was down 0.1% on Wednesday, and today the ASX listed firms such as gold miners Newcrest and Evolution and another mining and metals company, South32, would be releasing their earnings report. The minutes revealed that Fed officials expected that the central bank's monthly debt purchases could ease this year if the economy continued to improve on expected lines, while a section of officials also believed that the fast spread of the coronavirus Delta variant may temporarily delay the full reopening of the economy. And the crude oil prices declined for the fifth day in a row amid ongoing spreads of the Delta variant. Brent crude finished 1.2% lower, while WTI futures settled down 1.7%. Energy stocks such as Woodside Petroleum and Santos could trade lower on Thursday. And the spot gold prices were down 0.02%. US gold futures had earlier settled down 0.2%. And the ASX listed gold stocks such as St Barbara and Newcrest Mining could trade lower on Thursday. Cut on steel production and a rise in inventories resulted in benchmark iron ore futures falling over 4% in China to their lowest level since 24th of March 2021. The most actively traded iron ore futures on the Dalian Commodity Exchange for January delivery fell as much as 4.6%. On Wednesday, the copper prices slumped to their lowest in nearly 2 months, and the 3-month copper on the London Metal Exchange fell for a third day, falling by 2.3%. Thank you for your company on that report, but that is all for now, and stay tuned with 𝐊𝐿𝐴𝐚 TV for more live market updates. We'll be back with more of the news on the markets, economies and diverse themes and sectors. Sage signing off.